Okay, you bet. What has he not touched about you? What part of your life, what moment is omitted? And notice, I have loved you. I have washed you. And I'm stopping with just wash right now. The next is so absolutely important and potent. What's said here? What's being said? I have loved you. I have washed you. Becky.
Well, I see that he said he loved us and then he went to work, and he showed us.
Okay.
I love you, and then just go away.
Okay, right, Becky. Okay, Becky. Okay, and really, Becky's seeing it. See, love is not something idle. It's not a statement. It's not a dogma. It's not a sentence. It's not something that we just say and quote. Does that make sense? I love you. I love everybody and don't love nobody. Do you see what I mean? But I want to tell you something. If you're going to wash somebody, you're loving.
Well, I think love is.
Now think here. Think. If you're going to wash them, meaning you're cleansing them, you're making them clean before God. Huh? And what part of your life again is he not going to touch? What part are you going to hold back from him? You can't. Why does love insist on getting every part of you? Why does he want you to know he's washed every part of you? No, why does he want you to know from his love? Because, see, his love won't settle for a half job. What is this doing? Is this doing anything to you? Guys, it makes me go, oh.
He wants you to be at ease and confidence that you're there with him and not be.
Okay, don't say ease your conscience. I think it's a little deeper than ease your conscience, Okay, Becky, go. Okay.
Excuse my language, ass job.
Okay.
He's washed us.
Okay, you bet. And I love your terminology. Okay, Deb.
He's completely washed you, so there's no sense of self anymore. You can leave you free to.
Okay, all right. Okay. Now you're even actually running it further, which is wonderful because that's where you go to others. Can you see? But first, the first thing, guys, here's what's got to happen in our church. The first thing is you got to know he's loved you. But then the second thing is that you've got to know that when he says he loves you, this is no half game. This is not a piece of love. It's not loving you because you're good, pretty, or you think you're clean to him. Do you see? He has loved you nasty, filthy, stinky, rotten to the core, and he has loved you, and he then washes you. And he washes every part that you call nasty. He says, man, I've washed you. Do you see? You can't claim your nastiness to live separate from him anymore if he's washed you.
That's right.
You wouldn't claim your nastiness to try to live separate from him if he's washed you. And he did wash you, that's what he said. Can you see? But now honestly, if you never get to live that he's washed you, then you're not washed. Does everybody understand what's being said here? See, love is so great. I mean, it's so compelling. He can't do no. I have loved you. And then I have washed you. Guys, you should go, yes. Every minute, roll out of bed. If the old accuser comes by like Martin Luther, if you remember the reformer I was mentioning there, and Satan accused him of everything, and he says, read the bottom line of all these accusations that was rolled and scrolled off that he had done wrong and all these things. And then finally he says, I was quaking in fear and so forth, etc., because all that he had said. And obviously they must have been pretty true if he'd, shaken and quivered in fear. And then he said, there was a voice, a still small voice, the voice of God that said, having to read the bottom line. And he said, read the bottom line. And Satan has to read, paid for in full by Jesus Christ. Okay. Guys, man, you know, and that's why, you know, see, you can get up and live. You can lead a reformation. You can see people saved. You'll see people born again when you're born again. You know, when it's real to you that you're washed and loved of Jesus and purified in his life, then it's nothing to do with you no more, as Debbie pointed out. Then now we can really reach for someone else and reach with effectiveness and a surety and confidence. Because, man, we're washed. When you're washed and you know he took care of you, man, you know he washed him. And their objections or anything else, or weaving or whatever else, man, there ain't no place to weave. God loves you. Where are you going? You know, I have washed you. What part of your life he ain't got a hold of? He's coming. He's got the scrub brush. Jim, go ahead.
Just in that, how the correlation goes back to being loved,
Uh-huh.
but to loving others.
Absolutely.
The wash part, you know.
Yeah.
But then even further, you know, the cleansing, but the resurrection.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, it all ties into bringing the gospel.
Oh, absolutely.
Once you've been loved.
Absolutely. Okay. See, guys, it's Jesus. We got to get to know him. Did you feel like you really knew Jesus right before you came in here, right? Do you feel like you know him a little more right now? Do you feel like, you know, he knows you a lot more than you thought he did? He got underneath the armpits. I forced you to know. Nobody's ever been there. He's been everywhere he needs to be, man. You know, and you know, isn't it amazing? You know, notice how you're winding down. I mean, honestly, and it's nothing but Christ and love and what he's done. You hear me? It's nothing about Butch. It's nothing about Pleasant View. It's not about you, but it's everything about Jesus. It's just him. You know, and that's very offensive to Satan, and it's very offensive to the beast of man, the pride of man. They don't want it to be just Jesus. They really don't. And you see, and so they'll try to make it into something else. It can't be anything else. It's just Jesus. Otherwise, he's only one come, lived, and died, you know, and raised and lives that you can live with and live in. I've washed you. Now, you better get to feeling clean. Okay? Mom, tell me, why don't you feel clean? I mean, there's been times you haven't felt clean. You're looking pretty spiffy right now.
When I ain't seeing him, when I'm not living in him.
Okay, yeah, he's not real. He's not what's really real, reality. See, that's faith. That's because you've left your faith to live what appears to be real.
Also, when I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, well, see, that you can't got no other place to go then if you're not hearing. Because hearing about him. So, guys, let me walk this up if I can real quick. You know, we should understand that as far as the world and everything else, you know, we're dead in Adam. Adam sinned. And I will say this much, and not to take anything away from Brother Mott's class, but I will say this, guys, realize what sin really is. God said, don't eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's what he said. For in the moment or the day that you eat of it, become a partaker of what seems to be good and evil, you are separated from me. You get it? So, you know, here's your options, I guess. Where's the sin? And it's really kind of hard because you see how Satan plays the game. You know, he works it, he hears and is beautiful, and he oozes with Eve, and he rolls all the, you know, flowers and the paint and so forth. And it's really not this way, twist, and he starts making it some other way, and so forth, and that, you know, and you won't really die. You know, you eat, and there'll be you to live in, and you'll be like God. And then she's ate of it, and notice nothing happens. And then she gives therefore unto the husband that the covenant is made with, and represents all of us, including Eve. But he takes thereof willfully and eats out of this desire. Now, we usually think it's the taking, it's the eating. What's the sin here?
I think it's pride.
Okay, it's intermixed with all those things, I'm sure. Tony, coming down. But the honest truth, go ahead, Mark.
The sin is the knowledge of good and evil, but before, all we knew was God.
Yeah.
But when the evil came, it was something else, and that turned us from God.
Okay, all right. The reality of good and evil. That's the appearance of the power that you would have of the you. You can decide what's good and evil. Does that make sense? And that makes you like God.
God.
Okay? But see, to do that, you'd have to first be already separated from God. And guys, I really want you to know this. You see, what really comes is the separation. Sin is a result of separation. When you're separated from God, you're missing God all over the place. Does that make sense? And you think about anything even you do. Your thoughts of Him probably ain't there. Your intimacy of your soul, and especially with the loving God and living in love with God, those type of things, it ain't going to be there, is it? It's only when we're separate from Him.
So it's like he moved off and made his own little kingdom and separated himself in that process.
That's what happens. And then notice what comes. Envy. Why is he envious? Because he's not God. And that's the honest truth. His kingdom doesn't even compare to God's kingdom.
Right.
He's ashamed. He's revealed. He's revealed. This rebel has been revealed. Once a lover of God, now opposing God. Does that make sense? And then you're just walking through the anger, bitterness, any of those things that's part of our flesh now. It's known as the flesh. Guys, that all comes about as being separate from God. That's why you were born dead. How was you born? It didn't say you were born sinning. You was born separated in sin. That makes sense? And so, guys, we got to go after the separation. See, again, kind of the bad thing is a lot of people went after sin. Jesus is taking care of the sin. And Satan uses that sin stuff all the time, trying to keep people still separated from God and from Jesus. We got to get in there and bring Jesus to end the separation. And the way that's done is by taking away the sin. Then you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be nothing. You can run to God.
Yahoo!
Yeah, there's a Yahoo right there. Because I do want to get into this part of it. The sin, there's death, and what death means, separation. It is a separation. And the actual order of death is a spiritual death. I guess we can look at Adam. Things call it spiritual death. To God, the order is simply this: eternal death. That's the first one, eternal death. When Adam ate, he has gone to hell. Translation, when Adam ate, you're gone to hell. All the sin stuff is, because if you're already in hell, it's done, isn't it? And you see, then all the sin stuff sets in. For as many years you tread on this earth, allowed to stay in this flesh of the body, there's be sin. Make sense? And then again, that's why new birth, coming to life, seeing Jesus, all those things becomes big. So here we are, born, separated from God, and to God, already gone to hell first, born separated already, so spiritual death is what I'm trying to get to. And the final death that God doesn't even recognize as death, because nobody dies in that sense, not to God, but is physical death. To us, that's the only death that seems really real to us. because it's one we can see. You know, Fred was here, and all of a sudden he's stiff, and he ain't in there no more. Slap him around, do what you want to, but he ain't moving. So we bury him before he starts stinking, and you know, cover him over, so forth, and what we call that death. And Jesus tells us to say, he says, though ye die, you no wise die. And what he's saying, though ye to yourself, you consider it death, physical death, you no wise die, but in fact, those that believe in him lives forever. All you do is make a step, and you're in God forever. Sound good? Guys, I'm just praying that when you reach your time of death, that you'll reach it with the greatest of joy and anticipation that you could possibly have. I'm really serious about that. And don't be disappointed. Your body's going to be doing weird stuff. And you say, don't look at it, look at him. But isn't that what we're doing now? Isn't that what we're having to see that your sins have been taken away? You'd have to be looking at him now, right? You know, or your sins will swallow you up. Can you see? But if you're looking at him, I love you. You know, he's real proud of that. Are you proud of him? You know, see, he's real proud that he just puckered up and been smooching on you all this time. What he's not too proud about is, one, you act like you don't even know him. And you don't know he's been smooching on you. You know, I really got a feeling you're going to find out Jesus has been there like this. Come back here. Where are you going? There you go again. Why don't you get back here? Come here. Guys, I really do. I believe we're going to be so full. You know, it sounds like I'm trying to bash like Puritanism and stuff, but they left us with this idea that, you know, and they're so right. You guys say, don't ever forget this. Do not ever lessen your thinking about the holiness and justice of God. I want to tell you, God is so perfect in his holiness and justice. He will punish of sin, and he is unrelenting. That's why it's called eternal. You understand what I mean? But guys, I promise you, anytime that even the wrath that has been demonstrated in our history, God makes sure you know that it's just simply a tad of a little demonstration so you might know what's coming. Does that make sense? And his wrath is being restrained so he can love you right into his kingdom. Amen. And literally right into his son so you can make the kingdom. And I really do. I think when you get to heaven, you're going to look back and you're going to say, wow, you'll see two sets of footprints, and one of them is Jesus chasing you all over the place, trying to hug you, trying to kiss you. You know, and you give him the cold shoulder because you was thinking about a sin or something, and you need to go. And then others said, oh, it's tied up with the affairs of this world. They got something more important to do. And this and they couldn't give him a thought. They couldn't pause for a moment of any intimacy with him. You know, things like that. You know, those things is what I'm concerned about. And I'm convinced of it. Judgment will never be in sin because Jesus has taken that away. He was judged for us. But I guarantee you, what you've done toward him and his love and what you've done about that love is exactly what you're going to be judged for. Does that make sense? And I promise you, the guy that was given the talent and buried it, hid it, you know, buried it, didn't use it for the benefit of anyone else. He neither loved his Lord nor loved people, either one. And that was his judgment, bound hand and foot and cast into outer darkness. You think about those that Jesus said, I was hungry and you fed me. And then he says, and as much as you did it to one of these, you know, if you love him, you'll be feeding somebody all the time and you don't even think about it. You know, it's not that you're doing anything. And none of us want to go do something. Does that make sense to be right or try to merit anything? No, you'll be doing it. That's the way I want the gospel preached from you. I want you to just be proclaiming him because he's loved you. Because you're so in love with him, you can't help but tell him. You know, man, this guy's got down here and he really lived for you. Man, he did a bang up job. He never sinned just for you. How about that? And then go to the death, pain, those things. I got to hurry. Anyway, guys, people are already in hell. And if we get this image, and probably we need to come back for us to benefit us and to see some of the horrors of hell. A good Puritan, again, Puritan influence, but I guarantee you I got a book that's this big and this thick, I swear. And it is just passages, and then this guy goes through each one of these passages going over all the different terms that you could possibly find, and it's really just about one thing: pain. Pain, that the horridness of hell, the vengeance of God in every form, shape, and size that will take place. So, I don't know what we need, but boy, something needs to move our hearts to a greater compassion of those that separated from God. People come up and say, well, so-and-so's a Mormon. Guys, everybody's something. I'm freckles, or I used to be. They kind of all faded. I don't know what happened, but anyway, everybody's sinned. Everybody's short. Everybody's living separated already, and it's because of the reality of their sin. It's a shame to have that reality if Jesus had taken it away from them, and they didn't even know it. Does that make sense? And I almost see, it's so amazing to me, God and His passion and His movement to send Christ for us to stop our destruction. And, guys, the picture, the illustration that I get about God, I said, today's a day of grace, that God is restraining His wrath, and He's only allowed just a little bit, drop here, drop there, to demonstrate that we might understand that there is a day of wrath coming, called a terrible and horrible day, a day of wrath that's coming. But man, we haven't even seen a drop of it yet, not even an illustration. Just a little flicker here or there. And the expression is as if it's laborious. For God to hold back His wrath, see, it's natural for Him to just, all right, you guys are all sin, man, it's hellfire for y'all. Right? It's the easy way out. But instead, God's laboring, holding back His wrath, sends Jesus to get this work done, sends the Holy Spirit in you and I to get the message from generation to generation to generation that everybody can be saved out of it. Is God loving you? Yes. See, I think of Bill Reed, Jerry Hickman, and people like that I got to meet and walk with and seeing them boys preach the gospel. I see some that's sitting back here that's preached the gospel. I see this church that has preached the gospel that wants people to be saved. And that's all they really want. It's all they've ever wanted. They just wanted the will of Christ to be done, and that's what His will was and is and always will be. And I really believe that, we need to stop sometimes and just really thank God for how God's worked. Without a Martin Luther, you wouldn't have the gospel today. Without an Apostle Paul, and by the way, without a Macedonian division, did you know most people in Asia would be saved, and you would be worshiping some round pot-bellied fellow besides Jim. Yes.
That's the thing about the other religions is whatever you do is for your own self, for you to have everything you have.
Oh, good, Vern.
And for us, man, we're happy with what we got.
Well, absolutely. We got everything.
We need nothing. We need one to be honest.
You bet. And by the way, what else do you need? Can I really ask you this right here? We've got a few minutes here. What do you need?
Just Jesus.
Okay, but I ain't sure you need that. You hear me? Why am I not sure you need that?
Already got it.
I already got it. What do you need? You know, what do you need, Dave?
More of Jesus.
Okay, we're trying to get more. One that wants more. Okay? That's a good thing to want more. But how about this? You know, I've loved you. You know, I think you can get all you want if you just preach for me. You know, I love that. He says, "At least happily you feel for me, you find me." You know, you can only bear so much. Does that make sense? As a vessel, you know, you only hold so much. But make sure whatever you hold, you've got it full. Okay, full of His love. Now let me kind of come back to this. What else do you need? No, okay, may I ask this? Okay, because see, I've got a sneaky objective here. See, I'm really counting on you really being able to sit down at any point in time with anybody and be able to have these words that is a person that you're living intimately with, that you're in love with, who's done these marvelous things for you and the rest of the world, who as His love is thriving through you, it causes you the grandest panic desire to want everybody else to get the experience that. Does that make sense? If something is so good and it's plenty abundant for you, you can't help but want to go to everybody else. And guys, think about your salvation experience. When you first really, wow, and you guys did say weird things like, man, my burden has gone away. I feel like a load has been taken off. You know, oh, I feel clean. For the first time in my life, I feel really clean. You know, you made expressions like this, and you did. You really, I mean, you know, that was real. And so forth. Then you wanted everybody else, whatever you experienced, you wanted everybody else to have that experience. And you just naturally wanted to go and tell anybody that was part of your family. Usually it starts with the immediate family or with others right here. You know, a lot of times those that saved, you know, they've never been hugged in their life. And here's all these guys, you know, and then again, some's never been in an interracial church or a community. You come here, it's like the United Nations. You know, you're going to get a little bit of everybody, you know, and I love that. And, yeah, and you get from every society, walk of life, but all of a sudden you're hugging these people. And you never even hugged before, or probably never been hugged. Maybe even in your culture or background, hugging was an improper thing. But all of a sudden, what's proper or improper don't even matter to you no more. Right. Do you see, all of a sudden you just love them. They're loving you. Guys, man, this is God. Does that make sense? And boy, man, this is what's happening. God's just making this really perk and come alive. So anyway, guys, this God that we've experienced, this Christ who has died for us, this gospel message of Him becoming flesh. And maybe this is a bad assumption, but because of our time, I'm going to assume it anyway. I'm going to assume that every one of you basically know the gospel. Do you? You know, the good, best news from God to man, and you can start there and work backward. To man, if the message is to man, what condition is man in? Yeah, he's in trouble, right? You know, and so the best news is God sent somebody to take care of all his troubles. How about that? You know, it's amazing, just that much right there could save somebody. It really can. And boy, then you get into the person that then he was God-man. The reason God-man becomes very important, he's qualified. He has the stuff to get the job done. What's the stuff? Huh? He has the stuff to keep flesh absolutely perfect. What's the stuff?
Let's get some.
Yes, it's Jesus. Yeah. He's God, guys. Deity. He's deity. It's God. See, God is the only one who took his flesh and kept it to the perfect will the Heavenly Father. Jesus was God. And Jesus bared the flesh, become flesh. And boy, guys, that miraculous conception is a very big theological point. God worked real hard at demonstrating all that. Do you understand the grief Joseph went through, all the things Mary went through? You know, there was a whole bunch of stuff that went on there. And you know, God illustrated and made sure all that went on. So we would all know that Jesus was both God and man. John goes on to tell you, old John, in his old age now, 95 plus, and writing toward the last of the epistle, which would have been Revelation probably, but writing in the epistle of John, he tells you that if a man don't believe that Jesus was the Christ, or was Christ, is God, he says he's an antichrist. And he says if he says that Jesus didn't come in the flesh, that he's an antichrist. You get it? He's not he doesn't believe in Jesus at all. Doesn't believe in the real God. He's a fake and a fraud. So guys, why is this thing about Jesus being incarnated important then? Why would it be to a lost man? Why could it be, or why should it be important to a lost man? You guys are going to make me cry right here at the end of the class. Guys, what do you deal with all the time? This flesh, right? Have you ever perfected it for 1 minute?
He did. He overcame the flesh.
Thank you, Tony. But see, you know, that's nice you know that, but what about the man that don't know that? And how do you know that he was able to do it? When I've tried and not able to do it, how on the earth this fellow you're talking to would know that he could do it? Huh? Thank you, Tim. See, if you got a God that's really in flesh, he's the one that could actually perfect that flesh to the will of God. By the way, you know, it's funny, the will of God, you know, the best you get is a law or two. Honestly, you have no idea the depth of that. The complete, you know, I imagine God totally complete, you know, to do anything totally complete, you wouldn't even know the boundaries of that. Jesus did, and he did it. Did it in the flesh. How about that? And why did he do it in the flesh? Why did he keep that flesh perfect? Why was that even essential? Why does he even have to bother? God went to great lengths and work to get that done. He had to do it. And I mean, there's some things God had to do. And God, I mean, really. And he had to get this flesh perfect. Why was that so important? Gloria, but listen, man, my theologian here, guys, but that is absolutely right. You got it. Absolutely, Gloria. Yes, I know. For us, but I got it. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I didn't say you was done. No, you did get it, honey. And what's great about it, he did it for us because we never could. Does that make sense? Everything that is in the gospel, man, that's why it's the best news. What you cannot do, he could do. And there's the proof. See, every aspect that you're telling them about is just keeping on the proof. Can you say? Have you heard the Apostle Paul tell us to convince souls? To convince them to be saved? Mm-hmm. Too bad. Guys, we're on a break right here. I'll tell you what, everybody, let's bow for a word of prayer. It's been a wonderful class. We're going to have a little surprise. I guess. I hope it's very good. Pardon? Oh, yes, get in here. This is either just for me or... It's all right, we're going to close it down. Come on around, come on around. Come on. I love you. Good to see you, man. Wow. Did you guys, what have you done here? Wow. Can everybody have a little sample? Yeah. You bet. Okay. All right. Okay, you bet. I love you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Love you. Anybody want some jerky?
Yes.
Tracy, is it permissible maybe at the kitchen? Okay, maybe we've got some plates or something, and anybody like us, try to be small, but then make sure everybody that wants a bite or taste, to take a taste. Okay, yeah, I'll have to have a little bite of each one because they'll be asking me how it was. Because, yeah, that'll be back here in the kitchen here available to you. If we can right now, let's just stand together and have a word of prayer. And give Lord, thank you for this wonderful food that these boys had fixed.